Well, welcome back once again to the Two Tables, E Due Tavoli with Mr. Basile. And today we have a very special episode, and we'd like to dedicate today's episode to Brother Richard Hughes. He was a colleague, a mentor, and a friend. He was someone who was a founder of Kellenberg and did everything from be dean to be assistant principal for academics to running the apostolic activities. He was a musician. I met him at Chaminade when I was a junior, and he was a great musician. He never gave himself the credit for being such a great musician, but he truly was. And for me, we always talked about not only music, but for cooking was really his passion. And he loved to cook. But the thing about Brother Rich is not only would he love to serve, but he was not at all put off by even being in the dish room afterwards. He ran what today we would call SALT. Back then he called it the Service Club. And every time to the members of the Service Club, he would write, "We have been called and we will serve." And for today, this little episode of, we'll even call it Singing in the Kitchen, we'd like to pay tribute to this man who passed away of cancer in 2011. But I think the thing that he taught us the most was to enjoy life, to enjoy your faith, enjoy your company. And as you're doing those things, to remember that Jesus Christ is the center of all those things. And that's really been our theme throughout these 6 weeks of this course. And we'd like to carry that forward. Today we have Ava Petrosky, we have Emma Carmody, and the Kaiser, Mr. Matt Bursig, and they're going to be sharing their talents. Give me a little break from the kitchen today, and we get to see them doing what they do best, not only maybe a little music, but a little time in the kitchen. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome to today's episode of Cooking and Singing in the Kitchen. I'm Ava, and today we're making homemade bagels. Here's the recipe. So we're gonna start with 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. So put this in the KitchenAid, the whole packet. Okay. Next we put 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. We already measured them out. It's in here. 3 1/2 cups of flour. And then 1 3/4 teaspoon of salt in here. Then we mix it, and we're using the KitchenAid, and we're using this attachment for it. So now I'll just attach it here. And this has been mixing for about like 2 minutes. So now we're gonna add in 1 1/3 cup of warm water slowly. You can see it's starting to form into dough. This is gonna be mixing for about 3 to 4 minutes, and we decided to make egg bagels, so we're gonna add in 3 egg yolks while it's mixing in those 3 to 4 minutes. The egg absorbs in. We're gonna increase the speed on the KitchenAid to medium and let that knead for 10 minutes. About halfway there, we're just gonna add a little bit of flour just so the dough doesn't stick to the edges of the mixer. 10 minutes and the dough is all ready. It looks like this. So now we're gonna take a clean dish towel, just like this, and place it over the dough mixture. And now we're gonna put it in the oven to let it rise for an hour, but the oven has to be turned off because we don't wanna bake it yet. We just want it to stay in like a warmish place. So we're just gonna let it rise in the unturned on oven for an hour. Here we go, see you in an hour. So it's been an hour, and this is what the dough looks like. So as you can see, I floured my work surface area, and now I'm going to put the dough on the flour and then knead it. After kneading the dough, it should look somewhat like this. Now we're gonna let it rest for 10 minutes, covered with another dish towel, just like that. Okay, so now take off the towel, and now you're gonna use a food scale like this to measure Each bagel should be about 4 ounces because the whole thing is 2 pounds. So you should get 8 bagels from it. So you just kind of eyeball it, cut it, and then measure each to be 4 ounces. Just like this here is 4 ounces. Do this 8 times. After you cut them, knead them and shape them into same size balls. There should be 8. You're going to line a cookie sheet with parchment paper, fill a pot with water, and set that to boil. While we wait for the water to boil, my sister Kira wants to demonstrate how to form the bagel shape out of the dough. You can add flour if the dough is kind of sticky. Just like that. This is what they look like. Now we have our 8 shaped bagels. Taking 2 at a time, we're going to drop them into the boiling water and boil them for 1 minute on each side. Now we're going to flip them over. And set the timer for another minute. We're going to preheat the oven to 425 degrees. Bagels really double in size after they're done boiling in the water, so we took another cookie sheet, so we do 4 and 4 to give them enough room. Now we're going to coat the tops of the bagels in the 3 egg whites that we have from the 3 egg yolks that we used in the dough mixture earlier. It's at this point where if you want any other toppings like salt, poppy seeds, sesame seeds, or anything like that, that you can add them on the tops of the bagels also. I wanted to make half of them salt bagels, so we're adding a little kosher salt to the tops of the bagels. Now that the oven's preheated, we're going to put the bagels in for 22 minutes. We'll sing some rant while we wait for the bagels to be done. 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments, oh dear. 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. It's been 22 minutes, and now it's time to take the bagels out of the oven. This is what they look like when they're done. They can stay for up to 5 days in a Ziploc bag and up to 6 weeks in the freezer. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Hi, so I put the recipe here in case you want to screenshot it. And also just remember to preheat your oven to 400 degrees before you begin. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Cooking and Singing in the Kitchen. Today we are going to be making blueberry muffins. These are my favorite muffins. And I thought we'd sing some of The Little Mermaid. So for this recipe, first I'm going to start off with a medium-sized bowl. And I'm going to mix in all of my dry ingredients first. So the first thing that you need are 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Then you want 1/2 cup of sugar. So it doesn't have too much sugar, but it tastes delicious anyway. And then you want to put in 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Now make sure when you measure this out, you're not measuring baking soda, because then it would just taste bitter. So make sure you have baking powder. And so your last dry ingredient is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So now that you have all your dry ingredients, you're going to whisk it up, and I thought we'd sing a little. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Sitting around here you think, sure, she's got everything. She's got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. She's got who's its and what's its galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. Okay, so now we have all of our dry ingredients incorporated, and we are going to start on our wet ingredients. So you want a big bowl, a bigger bowl than you used for your dry ingredients, and let's get started. You're going to start with 1 egg. So I have an extra large egg here because that's what we had, but a large egg works great. Really, it's whatever you have. Now remember to wash your hands after you crack the egg. So the first thing you're going to do is whisk up your egg. Now you can use a fork like I'm using because it's only 1 egg and it's easy. This is what I have after I whisked my egg. Okay, so the next wet ingredient you're going to add is your orange juice. Now you need 3/4 cup of orange juice. But you can also use milk if you want to. Now, I like how it tastes with orange juice better, so I suggest that. But if you don't have it, you can use milk and it'll still turn out great. Our last wet ingredient we have is olive oil, or any oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, whatever oil you have works. And I think I forgot to mention, it's 1/3 cup of oil. Okay, so once we have all of our wet ingredients, you're going to go ahead and whisk it again just so it's all incorporated. Here. And when you're mixing it together, make sure you don't overmix because you don't want to overbeat the egg. Okay, so I'm going to add my dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Just going to dump it all in there. And then we're going to use our wooden spoon and mix it together and sing some more. So now when you mix this together, you want to make sure you don't overmix, so just mix it until it's all incorporated. I want to be where the people are. I wanna see 'em dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down the, what's that word again? Street, up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. Okay, so now once you've mixed your batter, you're going to add your blueberries. Okay, so the last thing we put in is our blueberries. I have frozen blueberries here, but you can use regular blueberries as well. Okay, so you want to put in 1 cup of blueberries. Now you can always add a little more, a little less, however you like it. Okay, so now your blueberries are in your batter and you want to mix it together, but you don't want to overmix. Also, if you mix a lot, your batter will start to turn blue, so just until it's incorporated. Okay, so now our whole batter is ready and we are going to put it into our muffin tin. Okay, so now we have our muffin tin, and you want to put cupcake liners in it so that the batter doesn't stick, or I actually ran out of those, so I'm just going to use this non-stick cooking spray. Pam works the best, but I don't have that, so I'm just using this. Okay, so I'm going to use my spatula just so I can get the batter off the spoon and off the sides of the bowl to make sure we get our maximum amount of muffins. Okay, so now I just grabbed a teaspoon and I'm going to start putting the batter into my pan. And I figured we'd sing some more. And when you put the batter in the pan, you want to fill it up about halfway, 3/4 of the way. What would I give if I could live out of these waters? What would I pay to spend a day warm on the sand? Betcha on land they understand, but they don't reprimand their daughters. Bright young women, sick of swimming, ready to stand and ready to know what the people know. Ask them my questions and get some answers. What's a fire and why does it, what's the word, burn? When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love to explore that shore up above, out of the sea? Wish I could be part of that world. Okay, so now I have my muffins, and I was able to get 12 of them, and they're a bit blue, but that's okay. So now I'm going to put my muffins in the oven, and I'm going to let them bake for about 15 minutes. I'm going to check it at 15 minutes. Depending on your oven, it could be 15 to 20. Okay, so I just took my muffins out of the oven. They were in there for 15 minutes. And so basically, to check that they're done, they look done, but I'm just going to put a toothpick in the middle. And it comes out pretty much clean. So I think they're done. So after I took them out of the oven, I'm just going to run my knife around the muffin, and then I'm going to pop it out to cool. Okay, so now we're all done. I hope you enjoy your muffins and have a great day.
It's Mr. Bursick here. Hope everyone is doing well. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to do a little video here for Mr. Basile. He wanted me to do some cooking, which is something that I don't regularly do, but I will be doing a little German dish today known as Käsespätzle, which is really popular in southern parts of Germany and has become more popular today in a lot of the German restaurants that we have here in the United States. So here we go. Oh wait, I don't have my hat. I gotta put my hat on. I got my hat now. Yep, got my little German hat, my alpine hat. No, I will not be yodeling, but here we go. Let's start cooking. Okay, so we're going to start today with the Käsespätzle, and first we have to talk about what Spätzle actually is. Spätzle is a very simple egg noodle that comes from Germany, southern Germany, but it's popular throughout the country. Austria, Switzerland, and other countries as well. It's very simple. It's a very simple noodle, but it isn't necessarily simple to make. So today we are not going to be making it from scratch. It is available in a lot of different craft stores, grocery stores, markets, and things like that now, either imported or an American version of it. So we'll be using a dried version of it. So sorry for the hardcore fans out there. But it's a very simple noodle. Okay, so here we have our ingredients today for our Käsespätzle. Now, what we have to remember is that we're basically making German macaroni and cheese. Essentially, that's what we're doing. It's not macaroni, though. It's Spätzle, all right? I'm going to call it Spätzle. I'm really not going to call it noodles because it is what it is. Spätzle is Spätzle, all right? If this was Italian, we would say gnocchi is gnocchi, all right? So we're going to go with the Spätzle here. Here's our dried Spätzle, all right? The most important thing also, because of the cheese, is the Emmentaler Käse, all right? Emmentaler, which is the original Swiss cheese, the real legitimate Swiss cheese, okay? I also have some Gruyere, which I probably pronounced incorrectly for the French speakers, which helps with the melty factor with the cheese. So just kind of mix that in as well. it's important that we have our bacon. Okay, this is pre-cooked bacon, all right, or our Speck, as we say in German. We have some chive or Schnittlauch. All right, we have our onions. This is going to play a pivotal role, or Zwiebel. All right, we got a little bit of sugar, all right, for our caramelization. Our butter, or Butter, all right, butter is Butter, sugar is Zucker. And then we have, of course, beer, because our beer is very important for our German meals and will play a pivotal part, all right? So here are all the major ingredients that we are going to need. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I've got a pot of water here, which I'll show you guys shortly, to boil for our for the Spätzle. I got a frying pan here, which we're gonna do up the onions in, and we're gonna keep moving forward. All right, so you're gonna need a pot of water for the Spätzle. All right, so we're gonna put that on. Make sure, of course, you always put a little bit of salt in there, just like you do with any Italian pasta. All right, we got the frying pan here, and we're gonna get going. We're gonna throw some butter in here shortly, start doing the onions. All right, we got the butter here in the pan. All right, we got the butter going here in the pan. I threw some bacon in too, because of course that always helps. All right. In go our onions. Lots of onions. Okay, so the onions are simmering up nicely. I'm gonna put a little bit of sugar in here though now too, to help caramelize this a bit. Okay, so while the onions are cooking, we gotta chop up some of the cheese. I've cubed them in here nicely, right? So that we'll mix that in with the Spätzle later. And I got a little bit of the Gruyere mixed in with the Emmentaler. Our onions are simmering nicely and getting brown there. Now, because it always helps, just a little bit of beer. I'm using a Keller beer from Weihenstephan Brewery, which is actually one of the oldest breweries in the world. Okay, so now that the onions are starting to get nice and brown, I'm going to lower that, and the Spätzle goes into the boiling water. And we're only going to cook it for about half the time you would cook it as it says on the bag, which is about 13 minutes. So we're going to cook it about half of that time, because the rest of the cooking is going to be done in the oven. So as you guys all know, there's a lot of waiting that goes on in cooking. So the onions are basically cooked. We're waiting for the Spätzle to actually get cooked there in the pot. All right. This is a very simple dish. Like anything, there's always prep and there's always time involved, okay? You can do it actually entirely in the pan, like you would do macaroni and cheese. I'm going to do mine today kind of like more like a casserole, lasagna, kind of do it in the oven so it gets a little bit more brown and golden. But it's a simple dish in that it's not a heavy German dish. When you go to Germany, you want the Sauerbraten, you want the Schweinehaxe, the big pork knuckle, the big, marinated beef, or a schnitzel as big as your head, okay? Which is all fantastic and awesome. But Käsespätzle is good because it's a good summer thing. It's a great winter thing as well. It complements very well with a nice beer and also with a small salad. So really, if you're kind of being the more you're being a little bit more conscious of your health in your food, being a little bit more fitness, as they would say in German, then fit, as they would say, the Käsespätzle is kind of a nice light lunch. It complements well with a lot of different things. German macaroni and cheese. Okay, so we took the Spätzle and we've now drained it like you would do any other pasta. Okay, and so we're going to take it now back in the pan with a little bit of butter so that it's not going to stick. Here we are. We're going to put some onions into this casserole pan. We'll put them on the bottom, mostly so that when we put the Spätzle into the pan, we are not going to have any sticking. I'm going to put most of the onions in the bottom of the pan here. The rest of the onions I'm going to leave to put on the top so they get a little brown in the oven. Now we got the Spätzle's gonna go into the pan. I'm gonna mix that around a little bit as the noodles go flying. Okay, now we got some bacon that's gonna go in. This is a pre-cooked bacon. A little pepper. A little salt. Now the cheese. So we've got the Emmentaler Käse and the rare all mixed in. More onions on the top here. And a little bit of the chive. All right, and there it is. Looks like it's almost ready to eat now, but now we're going to put it into the oven. In the oven at about 400 degrees. So it goes into the oven for about 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. All right, guys, so now we're waiting while it's cooking in the oven. And like anything, you can use this time to do whatever it is you need to do. You can sing your favorite German song, Musidan, zum Städle Henas. Or you could, talk about your favorite German saints. Does anybody know, trivia question, who are the two major German saints? And they are St. Boniface and St. Elizabeth of Hungary. Even though she's from Hungary, she actually spent most of her time in Germany. She was actually a princess from Thuringia and wound up living in Marburg in Germany. And then, of course, St. Boniface is responsible for bringing Christianity to Germany until he was martyred when he tried to bring Christianity to the lowlands, or the area of what is the Netherlands today. I've had the great experience of being able to visit two important churches, actually three important churches. I've seen the grave of St. Boniface in Fulda. I've gone to the celebration of Mass in Fritzlar, where St. Boniface cut down the oak tree, actually. And then I've seen the former site of St. Elizabeth's grave in Marburg, where she's still venerated today, but her remains are no longer there. So I've had that experience in visiting Germany, which has been a great experience. But that's a different part of Germany. That's actually Hesse, where they're known more for their apples and their cherries and their pork, their schnitzel, than necessarily Käsespätzle, which is more from the southern areas, Schwäbisch or Black Forest or Munich, Bavaria, that area down there. And there you have it, sizzling and wonderful. The Käsespätzle with a side of grilled sausage and bratwurst and a complimentary side salad. So there you go. Guten Appetit, as they said in German. All right, enjoy this wonderful dish. So Kellenberg, it was a pleasure cooking for you this evening. It was a good evening teaching you a little bit about some of the regional German food, talking about German saints, and having some good food on the table. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, all right? So I hope you all enjoyed this, and now I'm going to cut back to Mr. Basile. Mr. Basile, back to you, sir. Prost, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss.